much better. So let's get started. Cover some news real quick about the past week, what's going on, what has been transpiring this week within the Haunted crew. We picked up a sponsor, actually two sponsors. And one of them will be announcing next week when I get the graphics for them. Strong TV, of course, is going to air this episode spread out through next week on their TV show, Digital Anarchist. And it's really been growing, man. Like, I don't think I've seen this many people jump into the podcast this early. Like, it's just phenomenal. But yeah, so our group is growing and we have a lot of really good people joining. Big addition was Ghost and Patrick. And then we also have Alberto Daniel Hill. I don't think he could make it today for some reason, but he's also part of the crew. He's in and out. So, if you guys see him in the Discord, holler at him, make him feel welcome. So tonight, the format's going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about our stories, kind of talk about the old days, talk about hacktivism, talk about what's going on in the future and today and all the political nonsense that's going on. So Ryan is going to help me co-host this, and I'm going to ask Ghost and Patrick to unmute yourself, if you don't mind. Yeah, cool. All right.
Yo.
What's up, guys?
What up?
What's going on?
Man.
Yeah, so having Ghost in the crew is kind of a big deal for me because our paths crossed a couple times back in the day. And I don't know if you guys listened to his Darknet Diaries story on that podcast. I think it was like, episode 70 maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, episode 70. And his actual video of the exploit he did is on YouTube, which was absolutely phenomenal. Props for that. So yeah, back in the day, when I left the military, we started talking about, the state of the world and politics and the nonsense that was going on. And a bunch of us kind of conglomerated together with different people, different groups, and kind of created a big collective. Well, that collective spun off into several different groups. We had other groups joining from other places, and groups splitting within the group. So hacktivism can get like really, I guess, confusing as far as who's who and where everybody's at and where they're dedicated to. And of course, you had people like Barrett, who was a voice for some movements and kind of a pain for the others. So, I mean, it's really like drastic, right? So you guys know my story. I'm not going to bore you with my story. I've talked about it many times. So I'm going to hand this over to Ghost and let him talk about what he's been through, what his story's like, what it's like now, how things are different. Because I know that even technology is much different now than before when Ghost got in trouble. So I'm kind of trying to help like bring technology and kind of show them some stuff. And if you guys want to do like videos and stuff, that'd be cool too. But Ghost, go ahead, man. Tell us what's up.
Where would you like me to begin?
The beginning.
And can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good, bro. You're good.
All right. Well, I can tell you where I've been since coming out of prison. It has been relatively difficult trying to acclimate back, into the way things are, and to try to catch up, socio-technologically, so much has evolved. You have to keep in mind that when you're locked up in a cage and isolated from society and from the way things are shifting and moving, you remain the same while everything else is evolving. And so, it was like coming out of a time machine into a world that was not the way I left it. All of technology has changed, and just the way that we interface with each other, the way we interact, it's really strange. Sometimes I talk to my friends about back in the day that we would pick up a phone and we would call each other, but if we were going to do anything outside of that, we'd have to go home and get on our computers. You know what I mean? Now we take it with us everywhere we go, and it never leaves our hands. I mean, it's right here. It's not far. um, but you know, I didn't have access to current information while I was locked up. I didn't have access to email systems, and a lot of literature I was not allowed to have. So it made it very difficult for me to understand where things were shifting. Whereas in contrast, I was, you know, I remained the same in the exact state of mind for 11 years.
So
It was pretty radical.
So talk to me about like the literature, right? Because I've had friends in prison for extended amounts of time, and I know getting to a terminal or even getting like literature to read about like technical stuff can be like really difficult.
Hmm. Literature. The most coveted literature I wanted was 2600 magazine. Okay. Every now and then I could get it smuggled in. But it was really freaking difficult. That's what really, you know, helped me understand where things were moving. That and sometimes like PC World, things like that. Wired, I'm not a big fan of Wired magazine. You know, nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. Just not my forte. But 2600, I fought tooth and nail to get a hold of it, and just seeing the exploits that were coming out, the different just the way like the hacker mentality was like skyrocketing and absorbing new technology and taking it apart and rebuilding it and explaining it to others is just, man, it just blew my mind, and it just killed me not being able to have, you know, unrestricted access to that type of literature. But I tell you what though, uh, I'm a subversive, you know, type of individual. I don't really like rules. One of the first things I did when I got into jail is I would write down everything that I knew about hacking, even the most basic stuff, and I would just give it to people, and they would send it home to their wives or to their kids who needed it done, and I'd show them how to do it. This was like my thumbing my nose at the system, just writing free literature and just handing it out to people. Um,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
but all that stuff is just obsolete now. All of it.
Yeah. So not only that, but like, you know, when you get out, like it's like you said, it's a totally different world, and the
Yeah.
technology is like really, I mean, booming. You know, if you look at like 11 years ago, it's just what we had back then is nowhere near what we have today. And I remember like, you know, I sent you the RF dongle, like that didn't exist back in the day. Like that was not something we did, you know,
Right.
but now it's like, you know, in a miniature device, which used to be in a big, huge like radio platform.
Right.
So things are way different. So talk to me about ETA. Tell me about ETA.
Well, it doesn't start with ET. It starts with a group called the Insane Masterminds Crew.
Mhm.
Uh, but anyways, so back in the day, since 1998, I loved being the lone wolf. I like being alone. But at one point in the early 2000s, I realized that I could really expedite, you know, my learning curve by hooking up with other people and seeing what is trending, what is attractive, what are other groups after. And so I ended up being recruited in this crew called I Am Insane Masterminds Crew, and it was badass. And at first, it was really great. Um, but time I felt, you know, the leader of this group, he was like a megalomaniac, just a really just overprivileged kid from Silicon Valley. Man, he was just really nasty. And I just, you know what, I'm going to create a group of my own. If he could do this, so could I. And so I decided to start the ETA, and I ran it by him because I thought, you know, we were pals, and, you know, he didn't see it that way. And he made a big problem out of it. And he said that he would make me his enemy if I ever did such a thing. And I was just, you know, I wasn't really exposed to this part of the hacker mind, how we can shift um, um, allies. We could shift just like at the drop of a dime, and I don't know what triggers it, but sometimes we can do that. And so, uh, over the course of a year, I systematically just wiped him off the map. Um, it got so deep that ETA members hosting his own forum and websites. So like at the very end, we got rid of them, and we ended up absorbing all of their members and creating a few of our own. And I just wanted to create a platform for people to feel themselves, even if they didn't have the tech savviness as some of us. We trained people who didn't have experience. And if they just really couldn't catch it, understanding how to take things down and rebuilding them in any type of like programming, like HTML or reverse engineering, JavaScript, or just basic shit, we would teach them how to social engineer, and we would utilize them that way, and how to do basic scans. And so everybody had a pocket. And so we had a multifaceted group with lots of different skill sets, and everybody did something on the mission table. And as bizarre as that might sound, it really wasn't about who was the best crew, but we were extremely resourceful, and a lot of things that people don't know that we were able to do ended up in my FBI file, which I've been trying to get a hold of. Yeah, right. Like we did a lot of freaking stuff. And any one of the just ETA members that are still around today that are not members, they could vouch for that, because we catch a lot of flack because people see that, this stupid video of mine where I'm, lurking around a private clinic with off-crack installing botnets, that was like all that I knew how to do, and they have it all wrong. And I'm glad they have it wrong, because I really don't care anymore.
That could have made your case a lot more difficult if they knew exactly what you could do. It
could have been a lot worse.
Yeah,
but
like
the video was a home.
The video was epic, though. The video was when I saw it on YouTube, I was surprised. First of all, it was the actual footage from the attack, and I was like, "Wow, that's bold. That's straight up bold."
I was a maniac, bro. Like I was one of those like overzealous, like maniac fascist, just brain jobs. Like I get these things in my mind, and I'm thinking this is the way it has to be. This was a propaganda video. I needed this to inspire some of the younger hackers to just freaking install our bots on anything they can get their hands on, and let's just go to town. Like, it was a really bad idea.
Yeah. It was a great video, though. It was so awesome. And it's funny because like off crack and booting up to the CD-ROM and grabbing the passwords that way, it's actually quite resourceful. Now, nowadays it's a little different. We use like USB and Mimikatz and all that good stuff. But it goes to show like the evolution of technology from back then to now. But I think that all of us as hacktivists were like really bold and brazen, like, hack something and put it in their face. Like, we'll be back, and this is how it's going to be. So at what point did ETA and your path cross my group's path, Anonymous?
Oh, let's see, 2007-ish, 2008. And it's so funny, dude, because I'm going to tell you, like, this is the most embarrassing part. Like, my exposure to Anonymous at the time was the infamous Fox 11 News clip. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm thinking, wow, these motherfuckers are terrorists. These guys, they're like freaking serious. Like, and we're thinking about Habbo Hotel, throw that in there. Then you got, the other side of the coin, you've got the protests against Scientology. But like my mind, you have to understand the way my mind thinks is I take things very literally. So I'm seeing these video clips and I'm thinking, oh my God, it's a terrorist group. And they all wear this Shakespearean mask. Like, I was afraid to touch it. I sent some of my own members to go investigate it. I was like, who the hell are these guys? And they come back speaking like all that anonymous jargon. And I was thinking, dude, they've got you brainwashed. How could you? Like, they're freaking, you know what I mean? They're flipping sides. You can't double dip when you're with the ETA. Like, come on, man. So when I ended up talking to various members of Anonymous, and they're all just trolling me to death, dude. I'm like, this guy, he's like, I don't even want to get into that's too embarrassing shit. I was looking for the leader of Anonymous. I had no idea that there was no leader, that it was completely decentralized.
Yeah, well, in that token too, it's not truly decentralized. Like, there's a core group of people who like ran the IRC and ran different operations, but I think where journalists get it wrong, especially with groups like ETA and with LulzSec and LizardSec and Anonymous. They try to figure it out, but it's one of those things that they kind of look at it from the outside and try to figure it out, and it's never 100% accurate, because none of our missions would be successful had we not had somebody in charge of those missions, you know.
Right.
But when I saw that you had crossed Anonymous, I was like, you know, the name sounds really familiar, and I think I remember the conflict that broke out. But it's with every group, right? So we had our own people in our own group, like splitting off, and Sabu and his.
We were trying to understand Anonymous because it was an enigma. It didn't make sense at the time.
Yeah, it still doesn't. Yeah, well, it made sense, but you know what? Like today,
its own twisted way.
Yeah, today in our current time in the political situation, like Anonymous makes more sense now than it did back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's weird. I was going to bring this up. Like, it's weird how, you know, we started this group, Haunted Hacker, and all of a sudden we start getting people like migrating back to that group mentality, you know, and back to the hacking groups. But I think that has a lot to do with the tension in the environment and the overall pulse on the political system, and people just getting screwed over. I think people have had enough, and then when that happens, it's like minds tend to migrate. It's like magnetism.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. There's no way that's, you know, some of these amazing hacktivist, you know, feats that Anonymous was able to do from 2012 on up, you know, they were like these super secret cell groups. I remember seeing some of these on the news and what I could catch in the newspapers. It's like I was in the wrong era. I just freaking missed it. I was so amazed.
Yeah, it's come a long way.
Yeah.
So.
It was just mind blowing. Yes. So I ended up meeting or speaking to these Anonymous members, and that's when I started to make friends with Anonymous. But like I said to you before, you know, ETA received really powerful offensive you know, resources from another group called 0 Day Exile, and they were staunchly against Anonymous. So when ETA started to become Anonymous friendly, you know, we had to play both sides of that fence by, you know, making our making our allies happy, while at the same time, you know, pursuing our own path in Anonymous. A lot of people know that, you know, Fixer, which was a prolific ETA member, doubled as Darth Anonymous, and people recognize him at DEF CON. Like, we definitely loved Anonymous at some point.
I think everybody hated or loved Anonymous at one point. I think it went back and forth depending on what we were doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, like, so you're out of prison now, you're free, you're working, catching up with technology, you hooked up with this crew, which, you know, I'm totally glad you found a place to like hang out, you know.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So what do you see for like the future, man? Like, you know, the shit's really crazy here in the US right now, like really crazy. You know, what's your take on where we go from here?
Well, I know where I want to go, but I really want to get certified in digital forensics, because I think it would be very useful to assist, you know, criminal defendants with their digital forensics. And I got this in my mind 11 years ago because I had the chief forensics investigator for the public defender's office working on my case. He was a complete fucking imbecile. And I don't normally say that about people. I always try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but this guy was an apex idiot. Like, he had been in his profession for as long as I had been a hacker, and some of the no-brainer things we would fight over and squabble. It's like, Mr. McGraw, let me tell you something. There's no such thing as a certified ethical hacker. There is no such thing. There is nothing ethical about hacking, sir. And we would fight over the dumbest shit. And for example, you know, I used to do a lot of terminal services exploits with remote tops. We would use Metasploit, TS Grinder, TS Crack, things of that nature. And one of the things, like in TS Grinder, after it would, conclude a dictionary attack, it would say like crack successful. I had a screenshot of that once, and he looked at this screenshot. It's like, Mr. McGraw, I simulated this. I tried to simulate this in command prompt, like a dozen different times. You cannot make it say crack successful. I don't know about you, Mr. McGraw, but I think you fabricated this.
Always. And that was Dallas. That was Dallas County, right?
Dallas.
Yeah.
And this guy inadvertently told me who the CI was on my case.
Nice.
Like, who does that?
So for people who don't know, so Ghost and the prosecutor that was prosecuting him, the FBI agents that were involved in his case were also involved in Barrett Brown's case, which was also involved in my case. And so it was like a triad of like bullshit. And I mean, when you look at the cases like publicly, the stuff that they cite and the comments they make, it's almost like it was post 9/11, right? So anything that was considered hacking was an act of terrorism. So they really trumped up some like crazy ass statements and charges. And I think Fidel, I don't know if you know Fidel, but Fidel Salinas had literally like almost 50 felonies for breaking into a school network. Yeah. So he did like, I don't know how much time he did in prison, but it was a lot.
Wow.
So yeah, like the court system is not capable of handling cybercrime.
No.
And I kind of talk about that on my talks in Europe, is that we need like a one court system, like worldwide, almost like an Interpol type court that has people who knows cyber law and can actually prosecute and sentence, but sentence within like reasonable guidelines. Like there's no reason why somebody who hacked into a computer network should get more time than a rapist or murderer or a pedophile. Like that shit is unheard of, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, it happened with that Steubenville hacker in Ohio, KY Anonymous. He got more time for doing what he did than the rapist that he was trying to expose.
Yep. And that's pretty common, right? So with Facebook, when we took down a bunch of pedophile profiles, and even when we hit ISIS on Facebook and social platforms, and we destroyed like 1,000 profiles, the police and law enforcement were like, look, you're impeding on investigation. Don't do that again. We'll consider it a crime. And I'm like, really? Like doing your job's a crime? So, I mean, they really don't have a good handle on cybercrime and what it entails. So with that being said, like the current political situation is so beyond screwed. And I think we're going to end up with some riots and some other stuff. But I do think, so I think that other hacking groups, I know APT28 has already jumped in. And there's going to be some other groups probably joining. But I think that there's going to be like a mass onslaught of digital attacks like within the next week. Because nobody trusts the government, and the way things are going is just so shady. But it'll be interesting to see where, what groups jump up. I know Anonymous is kind of peeking their head out, like, hey, we're still here, but I don't know how valid it is anymore.
If I'm not mistaken, there is a anonymous channel on Twitter, and they claim that they have a campaign against the Department of Justice for this year, scheduled for this year. I don't know what that entails any more than the next man, but
yeah, it's interesting that they come up with these operations. The operation against China, they delivered a video and basically said, hey, we've seen the footage leaked from Wuhan, and stop mistreating your people, whatever. And China was like, yeah, go screw yourself, we don't care. But I don't think Anonymous has the power that they used to have. I'll probably get slammed for that all over social media. But it is what it is. So Ryan, what questions do you have for Ghost?
This isn't necessarily just for Ghost, but can you guys explain what the political climate's like over in the States at the moment? Like for those of us who aren't from the US?
Sure.
I know it's a shit show, but
So take a bottle of propane and sit it out like across the field, and then take a 50 cal and shoot that bottle of propane. That's what it's like right now. And both sides are collaborating and doing just some weird shit. And really using the people as pawns, and they're falling for it hook, line, and sinker.
That is so true.
It's horrible. But yeah, like, so that political climate is about to come to a precipice, I guess, probably this week when Biden does his inauguration week. They've already locked down DC. They've sent something like 10,000 troops into DC to take over the Capitol and kind of defend the public buildings. And they're expecting like widespread riots through DC, and each state capital has been warned ahead of the inauguration. Personally, I don't care. I really hope they burn down all of the government buildings, because they are our buildings, right? We pay them. We should have a right to do what we want to with them. And right now, I think the people are just tired of government, period. It's so corrupt.
It is bad.
And I'll probably get slammed for that as well. But, you know, it is what it is.
It's past the
So,
breaking
what are you
point.
doing with yourself these days, man? What do you do to fill your days, bro?
To me?
You.
Yeah. Well, I was writing for Forklog Media and for Being Crypto. They're an online cryptocurrency technology magazine. But I've taken pause for that until probably about summertime. I'm just working in a warehouse now. I just need to pick up on some money, and but I love writing. That's what I'm going to do. Probably mostly that, and you know, I want to get that certification, digital forensics, and do something, because I'm not motivated by dirty money, and I know that's one of the things I'm going to face if I'm working in the court system. I fucking hate what they do to people, and how they're able to get away with so much because some ordinary people don't know, or they're not tech savvy. And that's one thing I'm going to put my foot down, make sure that doesn't happen on my watch if I can help it, you know. But I've never been motivated by dirty money. I'm not a scammer. I've never stolen money. I've always been happy with money, with what I make. And that's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to do this year.
So the prison time that you served, will that impact your ability to be able to be involved in the court system in the States? Like, or will you be an outside consultant? How does that work?
I think Kevin Mitnick was a president for things like that. I mean, someone like him was able to completely flip the script, so to speak. You know, it may be difficult at first, but I think reputation is the one thing that the courts are more concerned about. If you are a good witness.
Yeah. So another thing too is that there's a lot of people on the speaking circuit when I was in Europe that advocate for giving hackers jobs, right? Like, I think a lot of people over there in Europe understand that we're misunderstood. And the more speaking I did over there, the more offers I got. I mean, I sit on 2 boards of 2 different companies. Who does that? And then when I got a CISO job, the headlines in fintech magazines was company hires ex-anonymous as a CISO. Like, that was big. I mean, I think that was like the first article that talked positive about people like us and our backgrounds. But, you know, the more that we're vocal about it and talk about, you know, the problems and advocate for other people, like, those doors will open. And they may not trust you with everything. Like, I still run into situations like, so I interviewed with this company in Germany. I was actually given a job. They sent me a contract, and it was epic, bro. So the contract at the very end of it was like, are you a member of Scientology? If so, what's your role in Scientology? And I was like, are you kidding me? like, so you specified Scientology. Does that mean like every other group, like, you know, nefarious group is okay, just not Scientology? And I had to explain to him, I was like, look, if you look at the history of Anonymous, of course, I'm not in Scientology. Like, that is a no-brainer. Yeah. But I mean, we're so misunderstood in like business, right? And a lot of businesses want that mystique of, you know, a former hacker like joining their team and helping them out. So I don't think you'll have a problem with that. Plus, you know, the more we can get you involved and get you into media and speaking engagements, that's not a problem, man.
So how do we educate the public about the difference between black hat and black heart? Like,
that's a good question.
Handle that one.
You know, there's a part of my book where I try to break down some of these stereotypes or these categories, because just because someone is a black, I mean, a black hat doesn't mean that person has criminally, minded intentions, or they're a bad person. I've met some white hats who are pieces of shit. Like they are bona fide, like terminally fucked up. That's not to say that all white hats are that way, of course not. But then I've met some black hats who will, you know, um, just go out on a limb to for a just cause, who don't steal other people's shit, who don't fuck up other people's shit. They just break the law because it's fun, or they just, they'll intrude but they won't steal, or they'll intrude and steal and give away. I mean, you don't know. Like all these barriers, these categories really don't work. I don't think they work.
No, they don't.
For example, in my book, in my autobiography, I went into this degree where I met this guy named Henrik. He was a family friend of my wife at the time, and he was the worst piece of shit white hat I had ever met in my entire life. He was bragging to me about, oh yeah, I'm watching these guys on this website. Here's the website I'm watching. These guys, I know they're up to no good, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to call the FBI, and they're going to get hit with a search warrant and blah 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 blah. I've got these guys by the balls, ha ha ha. And this guy is doing it for the wrong reasons. Like, so what I end up doing is I contact these guys and let them know, look, dude, shut down your operation, let it go, move on. You've got to. This guy was like, he was just a freaking maniac, and just because he wore the white hat collar didn't make him a really decent person. Now I know a lot of white hats who are wonderful people, and I have nothing bad to say about white hats, but it's just not everybody's cut from the same cloth.
No, and you have to think about it too. Is like black hats. Some black hats don't have motivations, but they get mixed up in an operation or a group of people that have more power over them,
It's very
or
true.
blackmail them, and they don't have a choice but to help. And they're always the ones who are hit, with the blame, or being a scapegoat, which is really shit.
Yeah.
Even government. So
It's so true.
look at governments, man. So how many black hats work for the government? I can think of at least 20 off the top of my head.
Right.
And they employ them to attack other countries, attack people, break into private networks. It's a game that everybody plays. It's not something that we play. It's a global game, and it always will be.
It is a global game. Everybody has their own intentions, motivations, and whatever circumstances shape them onto that trajectory. So, I mean, yeah, but I would. Everybody always asks me, "Would you ever help the government?" And I would. My answer is always no. Like, no, absolutely not. Like, it's exploitation on a personal level.
Yeah. So my work with the government and being a CI, they really abused me. Fortunately, I didn't have to do CI work against any domestic groups. It was all foreign. But even then, they really make you feel like a servant, like not like a human being. They basically just like
terrible, bro.
Run your shit, and yeah, they may kick you back a couple bucks here and there, but they keep you dependent on them, which is really fucked. Yeah, I mean, I've seen CIs do some really bad shit to the government, and that may be why they act that way. But I haven't had a good experience with the U.S. government at all. I mean, being overseas and being considered a cyber terrorist and having my passport revoked in a foreign country was pretty fucked up.
And getting it worse than that, yeah.
No. So we were watching the guy who stopped, I guess, Eternal Blue. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. He goes by like Werewolf or something like that. But he was in the U.S. and they did the same thing to him. They killed his passport. WannaCry. Yeah, French said WannaCry. So it was on the Hunter Hacker episode on Netflix, I think. But yeah, like they do some really rotten shit to people, especially hackers, and we have no power over that. They throw every agency they have. If they can't get you with like the FBI, they'll go after like the State Department, shut your shit off. They'll throw the IRS at you. They'll ban you from banking. They make you what I call making somebody a zero. Like you don't exist.
Is that pressuring you to do work for them? Is the tactics they take? Is that what you're talking about?
What's that?
Is that the pressure they put on you so that you basically do what they ask, or is this just something they do if you're out of sorts, or what's the?
They do it because they can, right? So when I was a CI with them, I did what they wanted me to do. I provided them the information. I operated in the groups they wanted. I was good and clear until it was election time and the voting in 2016, and I started getting close to what was really going on. And when I got close enough to figure out what was going on, they just kind of cut me loose. And then after that, it was like weird shit started happening. Banks, I can't get a bank account. Hit all the 4S's on flights and the extra screening. And then my passport gets suspended, revoked. So they do what they want in order to keep you from being able to, I guess, gain some foothold to disclose or bring them into the light. The government in the U.S. is like really corrupt. It always has been.
Yeah.
It's not going to change.
So, Ghost, did they ever approach you to work for them, or did they ever approach you to work for the government? Like,
Absolutely.
They approach us all.
They approach us all. In 2009, I was approached by a Department of Defense recruiter of some kind when I was participating in the DC3 challenge over on DC3.mil. He specifically wanted me to narc on my friends. I wouldn't do it. The only thing that I offered were some of the exploits that we discovered in government websites, just some lame little things here and there. But during my case, they wanted several of my members, and I was looking at 20 years with the possibility of $500,000 in restitution. But I mean, my guidelines wouldn't allow it. But I ended up getting 1 year below the statutory max of what they could give me because I wouldn't tell on my friends.
Yeah.
I'm happy I didn't.
That's pretty common too. Like,
yeah, it is very common.
Yeah, and the way they manipulate it. So when Fidel got arrested, they basically threw like something close to 50 felony charges at him, unless he became a CI, and he refused. And they're like, okay, well then you go to prison. And they were literally going to try to press the whole, 50 or 44 or whatever it was. And his lawyer was able to fight out on most of it. But still, I mean, they will bury you under the prison because, for one, you're a threat, because you know more than what they know. You have the ability that they don't have. And so if you don't go to prison, they come to you and say, hey, look, we need some help because our Department of Justice, like, technical team is not smart enough to, like, fight their way out of a paper bag. Which brings me to another point. So Ghost came to us through another member of Anonymous who was part of the Anonymous IRC back in the day, Johhny5, aka Patrick.
This guy, yeah.
Yeah. So Patrick, tell us about how that happened, man, because I'm curious too.
All right.
hey.
All right.
Hey, man.
What up? Yeah, so similar to Ghost's story, I grew up with a bunch of little vigilante hackers on, different IRC chat channels, landed me naturally in Anonymous's area, because one day I was hanging out on 4chan, and this is the craziest story. I see this fucking Tom Cruise video being passed around, and I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is this, So they're all like, yeah, we're gonna go fuck Scientology up over it. And I'm like, okay, sounds like a good idea. I'm like, I know how to hack shit, so let's do this, I hung out in like FNet, different. I mean, I've been all around, man. But I really got going from that point on. I remember watching like DEF CON videos and shit. Who is it? Jeremy Hammond. I remember seeing that video in like 2004. That kind of shit, like it spoke to me. Just the idea of unity and gathering together and just fucking off. I mean, it wasn't like Exodus was saying, it wasn't like it is now. It seems to have evolved into like cyber gangs, whereas I didn't really take it that serious. I mean, I didn't even own a computer until like 2007. I used to go to the library. Right. Yeah. So I spent most of my time up there you know, logging into different chat rooms and shit like that. And it's like all I researched, you know, was about computer hacking and, you know, different shit. Just tech was my thing. But yeah, back to Anonymous. So from there on out, I watched some shit go down. A lot of people went down. You know, it got crazy. You know, people went in different directions. I did myself. I later resurfaced, you know, after 2012, you know, after a lot of the arrests like Barrett Brown and some of the other key characters like Sabu. We all heard about it, and, you know, naturally I boogied out. I came back because of, you know, like operations like Ferguson and stuff like that. You know, there was some other, you know, critical ops that I wanted to make sure I was involved with. So, you know, from there on out, I mean, yeah, it's just it ended as soon as it began, pretty much. Last year, I, you know, made a decision, you know, to just take a step down and, you know, try to be, yeah.
That's the hardest part is walking away from that and like giving up those connections.
Yes.
Well, it's not like I gave up any connections. It's just, you know, when you know shit's going on, you know, you just kind of stay out of it and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Everybody that knows me knows, you know, I was pretty much nothing short of a tactical nuke when it came to hacktivism. But it's been interesting, you know, coming up, and, you know, now I'm just looking forward to, and that's another thing about me that I don't think a lot of people understand, you know, is I was an IT professional, you know, I'm a former IT manager, you know, so it wasn't all just me jumping online to fuck computers up, you know, I actually worked in the industry. You know, hopefully my former employers don't look any further down on me. You know, I just thought what I was doing was right and made sense.
So and that brings me back to our group, right? So this group started out as like simply a podcast, you know, and just like a bunch of us getting together and like, you know, talking about bullshit. And all of a sudden it's become like this thing. And I've been interviewed about, you know, tell me about your movement. And I'm like, whoa, that's like too familiar. Like this is some weird shit. Like not like we thought about this and planned it out. Like, hey, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna stand for this. We're gonna stand for that. It was more of a podcast, and all of a sudden it became a movement. But I think it lends to the environment, and people just want some kind of truth and transparency and like some kind of level of people being genuine, right? And the same thing, like, you know, when I told you about, you know, how it felt with this group and how it felt with Anonymous when we first starting out, it's the same tone, it's the same vibe, same type of environment. You know, back then we had post 9/11, we had the, you know, the Iraq War, all that good stuff, right? And we were bouncing back from that, but the government was like intruding on everything. So some time went by, things were chill, you know, they got past that, and then all of a sudden this, and then now this group is coming back together again. It's really
funny
strange
too, because I think what was it, 2002 or something like that. I remember when the Matrix came out, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, I want to fucking hack computers like that, you know. I'm thinking like, that shit is fucking cool, you know. I'm like, where do I sign up? I'm like, where, you know. So I would, like I said, I would always go to the library. It was the only place where computers were in that time, you know. They weren't like a household item. I mean, and they were fucking expensive, you know. So it's been interesting, man. It's evolved. I think that the direction where IT and IT security is going, you know, it's got so many dynamics to it now. It's amazing to see, you know, how it evolved, you know, from something, you know, from our day, you know, when it's crazy, man. I mean,
and then
you're looking at the cert list, and I was like, wow, like, where do I start?
Dude, the cert list, the certs are its own industry within itself, and they've hijacked everybody's talent and said, okay, you know, this is a standard. You got to pay us $10,000 and you know, go to this 5-day boot camp, take this bullshit test, and all of a sudden you're qualified to be like the defense of some company. I fight against that because you know, if you're going to hire someone based on 3 letters behind their name, then I don't want to work for you. And when I interviewed people, like I put together what I call a gauntlet, right? I put together a virtual box environment with multiple machines, multiple vulnerabilities, and say, hey, look, you got a day, go for it. Show me what you can find, break into it, write me a report, and present that report to me. I don't care about certs. You know, certs may get you into government contracts, but what does it really say besides the fact you can take a test?
That's an interesting story. Somebody hired me out there one time, and he I told him, he was I forgot what he said, but he's like, I want the guy on his way to jail. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't want to be on my way to fucking jail, man. You know, and it made me laugh because he was actually giving me, you know, credibility in a way. You know, he was saying like, you know, you're good at what you do, so, you know, if I'm going to hire you for a contract, he's like, he knew what I was doing, you know. So.
Yeah, but they're creating that environment, right? So the more they rely on certs, they're creating that environment where they're putting separation between people who really know what they're doing and people who want to know what they're doing. And you're not going to get that quality unless you look at somebody like us who have been on that way to jail or past jail, because what you're going to get is academia, somebody who can read a book and take a test.
I think all 3 of us can agree that there's a difference when you're doing it illegally than when you're not. You know, it's like most of the systems that I've gone after, you know, I didn't know anything about them. You know, it was just, you know, like red light, go.
totally black box, right? But what was cool is when I was working with one of the financial giants in the U.S. During Occupy Wall Street.
Wow, that was interesting.
Leaking their shit to anonymous databases, mortgages, fraud, and doing that during, like, collecting that data during the day while I was working as a trusted, you know, employee in threat management in their company, in a major company, and at night dumping that shit in the channels. You know, it's like how much they really know. So now those financial institutions and other organizations are hiring people to like look at the individuals within a company, the insider threat. Insider threat wasn't a thing before like 9/11, before 2001. But now they're like, oh shit, we're giving these people access, and these people are walking off with data and costing us millions of dollars. So it looks like, to me, the industry moves and changes along with what we do. Like the 3 of us, like the type of people we are, the industry kind of follows what we do and kind of molds to stop people like us. But what they don't understand is like we're very unpredictable, and you know, a lot of the companies put together these algorithms based on behaviors and based on past experience, but those algorithms never work.
They wouldn't stop. That's one thing that I never did was hack from home, right?
Right.
So I mean, I probably spent a lot of real estate at Starbucks, and I'm not gonna even lie.
Thank you so much.
But I feel bad because like I probably abused the shit out of Starbucks Wi-Fi for probably 5 years.
Look at Home Depot, right? The guys that
Corona.
The feds do it. I mean, what the fuck?
Right. So look at Home Depot and the guys who hacked those hundreds of credit card numbers and took millions of dollars from Home Depot, did it from their parking lot, and hacked into their Wi-Fi, which we're going to do some Wi-Fi hacking later. But you know, there's a lot of simple stuff out there that people don't understand. Like, you know, there's RF. You know, I was talking to Ghost about, you know, RF and the shit that exists as far as like, you know, what you can obtain and what you can mimic. And then Wi-Fi is so simple, and especially with everybody on lockdown and working from home, like Wi-Fi is like the shit now. Like it went from being, you know, I'm not really concerned about the next door neighbor's Wi-Fi to, I know they're working from home and their Wi-Fi shit. So let's see what we can get. Not saying I did that, but it's very probable that that happens around the world.
That's funny too, because I always tell young hackers this story and shit. You know, it was like 2009, and I just got into college. You know, and I was broke, obviously. You know, a college student, and that's how I got through like almost like 6 months of my first like semesters. Was I hacked into the neighbor's Wi-Fi, and it, it was just, I don't know, it was just naturally something that I did. My aunt gave me a laptop. I remember that, and she's like, you know, make sure you know, keep your shit together. And she's like, don't be hacking into nobody's shit, you know, because she knew I was good, you know, like she just, I don't know. I'm thankful that somebody pushed me in a right direction, even though I was doing stupid shit on the internet. I still, you know, managed to walk somewhere.
So this is a question I want to ask you two guys. As far as your backgrounds go, right? How did your family approach or try to understand or react to what you did, right? So I know my family, we're very disconnected in multiple ways. They don't agree with what I do. And back then they looked at it as, you know, do you really want to do this? You know, you're gonna get in trouble. And, you know, when they started getting letters about downloading copyrighted material and just bullshit, it's like, you know, they put me in a different situation than, let's say, my sibling. And that I don't think they'll ever understand, like really understand what I do. And so, like I said, we're disconnected. So how did your families react to like your path to where you're at now? And how are they involved with you like today?
You want to go ahead, Ghost?
Sure. Well, if you listen to my Darknet Diaries podcast, you kind of understand that, you know, where my background comes from. A lot of my family are very, you know, zealous, you know, religious wise. And I mean, I'm religious too, but on a different kind of note than my family. My mom seems to think that GhostExodus, like this persona of mine, is like a demon, like driving me. I now understand a little better what it is, because if you've seen my Twitter feed, this is, I do have multiple personalities. Like it comes out, and you don't know all of it, but I mean I do, and that's good enough for all of us.
Right.
But I don't let my family really know. One of the, for example, this is, if there's ever a like if my mom's business undergoes some type of cyber attack, I'm usually the first suspect on the list. In fact, in 2011, when I went to prison, I was sentenced and went to prison. Her business got hacked into, and she immediately assumed it was me and threatened to call the FBI right off the bat. So like I don't tell them anything anymore ever.
Exactly.
And I'm happy with that.
Exactly.
I love them, but this is it.
What about you, Johhny5?
I remember, I think I told you this story. I showed up on my brother. He works in construction, and this was just after, I think, payback or something like that.
Yeah.
And I showed up on his job site, and I'm like, let me borrow a hammer. And he was like, why? And I was like, just give me a fucking hammer, you know? And so I put a couple hard drives on the ground. I smashed the shit out of them and threw them in this fucking container. And he was like, what the fuck? He was like, what are you doing, bro? I'm like, nah, never mind, man. I was like, you don't even know the half of it, you know? But later on down the road, you know, I kind of told him what the story was and shit. And he was like, you mean like, he's like, those guys with the masks on the fucking news? I'm like, yeah. He's like, no shit. I was like, it's even deeper than that if you know. He's like, bro, he's like, just don't get in trouble. But my family, you know, like Exodus, they're small. They were very traditional. My mother's Sicilian. So that they'd probably, even if I explained it to them, they probably wouldn't know what the fuck I was talking about, honestly.
Yeah, so when I was being investigated by the FBI, I took a thumb drive over to my dad's house. And I said, you have got to lock up this thumb drive in your safe. If something happens to me, this thumb drive has all the information to it. That thumb drive ended up becoming like a FIPS 140 USB with encryption. And I dumped it not too long ago. But the biggest thing for me, right, So it's funny, like, so Ghost, your handle and my handle kind of reflect each other, like the haunted. And I think we kind of have the same thought when it comes to our personalities, right? So there's a level of secrecy, and there's a level of things that kind of control who we are, that comes out every once in a while, and it's hard to control that. And there's that dark level that, you know, when I see something on TV, or I see somebody being mistreated, that haunting or that darkness comes out. And, you know, if you get in the way of that,
spirit, you know.
yeah, if you get in the way of that, it's bad news. But yeah,
I think that's something we all had, though, you know, because I think we were all motivated by world events. You know, for me, especially, I mean, and people that know me know, you know, if I got involved, you know, this fucking, it was going down, whatever it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, the secrecy. So that's another thing I want to touch on. So as hackers, and you know, being involved with different groups, and working in the shadows, and kind of like not trusting people around you. I find that bleeds off into like my personal life sometimes, where I go back to that mode of thinking of, do I really trust this person? Can I tell them everything about me? Do I want to expose myself like that? And I think that goes back to my days in Anonymous, where we had to worry about CIs, we had to worry about plants, we had to worry about just crazy shit, and FBI sitting outside of our door. And what people don't understand is what you see in the movies, right? The FBI like sitting outside and like making it evident that they're there. That shit's for real. Like that I'm sure, I'm sure everybody can attest to that. Like they make themselves evident that, you know, hey, we're here.
I remember one time I was on Twitter, and this is funny. You know, I forgot what I did, but somebody fucking kept trying to tag the, you know, the DOD and the fucking FBI and everybody on my thread, you know, to say I was the DNC hacker. I'm like, don't even fucking go there, man. I'm like kept staring at my door, like, oh no. I'm like, it's coming, you know. And it never came, but it's still, you know, it's shit like that. You know, people try to, you know, get even with you, you know, because they don't like you.
Yeah, there's actually a guy in here earlier. His handle was Van Man, and when I saw that, it took me back to the days of old. Yeah, being banned. Right. So, like, Exodus, talk to me about the level of paranoia during your investigation, because I know what mine was like.
Well, it's difficult for me to articulate this, because I initially wasn't paranoid, because I knew they were listening to my jail phone calls and knew that they were screening my mail, but I did not give two fucks. That was just my mindset at the time. The paranoia came after all these experiences had accumulated, and I'd done my time, and I left prison. But you see, like, I knew what they were capable of based on my experiences with them and where their limitations lie. And so, like, if I wanted to get messages out to my contact in the ETA, I would write it on a piece of rice paper in tiny print and fold it up into a little square and stick it beneath the stamp on the envelope. Or I would take a 5x7, or 4x7, photograph and pull it apart and hide it inside and glue it back together with the adhesive on an envelope and mail them out that way to get messages. And they never caught those messages. But to be honest with you, I didn't experience the paranoia until I entered the realm of the unknown, which was, I'm out of prison. Are they still watching me?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, right? So after the investigation, and I got back to the US like 3 or 4 months ago, it's like, I'm always looking on my shoulder, like, who's, monitoring or who's joining our podcast or who's adding me on Twitter, because it's like, I don't trust anybody. And literally there's been a few people who've experienced that distrust, right? So they join us or whatever. And I do full on onslaught of OSINT, and I'll be like, I know this, I know this, I know this. Who are you? And they're like, I don't pose a threat. And I'm like, yeah, but everybody poses a threat to a certain level, But you have to be like uber vigilant, and people don't understand that. Like, just as like normal everyday citizens have to worry about, getting their bank accounts broken into or whatever, our level's a little bit different, where we know people are watching, and we know people listen, and we know that they just wait for a moment that they can take advantage. And it sounds completely insane and paranoid, but you're not paranoid if you know that people are listening and you can prove it.
Right. They're listening.
Especially go ahead, Exodus.
Both. All right. You know that I went on the run twice. Like, I was fugitive status twice.
That shit was epic, by the way.
Both times. You have no freaking idea, dude. Both times I was totally not paranoid. Like, my friend and I penetrated customs and border security in broad daylight at Dade Island in Miami. Like, cameras are all over the place. We're walking down freaking train tracks. We're walking right past like guarded checkpoints, and like I'm knowing at some point I'm gonna get arrested, but I don't care when. Just let me get past this checkpoint. But Dade Island is completely like crawling with law enforcement. But like, this was exciting. Like, it was a thrill. Like, but like comparing that to post prison has the worst paranoia possible.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, I think it's the fear of going back through the same bullshit that we've been through. My journey is nothing like yours, right? So I didn't have to do prison time, but being a prisoner in your own home and being rejected from your own country is really fucked. Like, I can't explain that feeling of, when you go to get on a plane or try to get a passport, and they said, no, your shit's been revoked. Dude, you're in another country. Like, that shit's real. But tell them where you were trying to go, because that shit's fucking epic too.
All right, look.
Let me go.
What's your job again?
Here comes. Get ready. Okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense, but in my head it does. So I needed to get to Israel, and I didn't want to fly there because.
But why? Why'd you have to go to Israel?
Because I wanted to. I just wanted to. Like, I've always wanted an Israeli citizenship, and at the time I didn't want to go through an Orthodox conversion because they're really picky. Yeah. And if I flew there directly, they have the right to send you back if they think you're there for religious purposes. And my friend and I were there for religious purposes. And so we did a little research, right? And we discovered that the easiest way to leave the country is by cargo ship. Like, this is the way to do it. So we found the right company. It's the CMACGM. They're the biggest freight shipping company in the world, and they're super dirty. Like they've been busted for illegal trafficking of ivory and weapons to like Russia, and a disassembled tank to North Korea. It's like, these are our guys, dude. Totally. Not only that, but we found out, check this out. We found out that this particular ship that we were tracking disabled their AIS tracking system.
Beacon. Yeah, the beacon.
So we know, hey, they're doing something illegal. They're not going to have a problem at all. And so that's when we kind of, I hate to use the word break in because it's like there's a locked door, but when there's that many cops present in broad daylight and you walk right through the middle of a gauntlet of cops, like, that's kind of like breaking in. So we broke in, and it got to the point where there was even a shipyard worker who picked us up and took us to the ship we wanted to get to. So traveling to where we needed to go, like, this was an English ship, yes, headed for Spain, but ain't nobody going to where we're going. So we had to go through Nigeria. So we're going to Nigeria, okay? And we're like, hey, we got some friends in Nigeria, and none of them are scammers. And so we convinced the captain of this ship to take us to Nigeria. He had no problem. And I told him we were privy to the fact that they had disabled their AIS tracking beacon. And let's see, I spoke with an Israeli accent. So I posed as an American Israeli, and trying to look like I probably didn't even belong here at all. Just take us where we needed to go, and we'll cut you in a deal for ivory. And they said yes.
Nice. Nice.
Except that we didn't have $1,200 ahead, and so we were waiting for the next ship. But it was about money to them. So
That shit was epic. When I heard that story, when you told me that story, I was like, dude, that is so awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I have never thought about cargo ships, although I thought about yachting and personal, like, private jets and shit, but never cargo ships. But that's pretty epic, man. That's creative.
it was fun.
But so there's another part of your story that really caught my attention too, is the state park system. That shit was so awesome. When you told me about the drones, dude,
Shit.
you have to tell that. You have to say it. For real.
All right. So the second time I went on the run, so the prison gave me like $50 or something, just, you know, for taxi fares and bus travel. So I take the $50 and run or whatever. And my first stage is Cedar Hill State Park. And I stayed there for a week. I didn't have anything other than my clothes and some food that I brought from prison and a trash bag to cover my stuff up when it rained. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. I almost gave up at that point. But the Cedar Hills, I alluded to my wife at the time, who I'm not a wife anymore, that I was near a large body of water. Well, there's only one place where that is, and that's Cedar Hill State Park. She told my mother, who told my PO, and my PO told state park officials. And so they were looking for me for the better part of a week with a fucking drone. Like, listen, man, like, you know, those whines, those buzzy ass whines, those drones flying overhead for hours, just for about a week looking for me. I have never been so freaking scared in my life, because back in my day, we didn't have drones. We had remote control airplanes and helicopters. So now we've got drones, and they were looking for me. Excuse me. And I knocked over my little wooden hut with my little reed mattress. I just covered it all up, and I ran into the forest and hid and stayed in there for a little while. I'm telling you, that had me bugged out.
Yeah, man. Like, so
Yeah.
when you told me about that shit, I was like trying to envision in my head, like, what would it be like to be hiding in the woods from a drone? But while you were in prison, so like we developed like new tools, right, to knock drones out of the sky with RF and you know 2.4 gigahertz and shit. So I'm envisioning that story going, okay, I can sit there with the Yagi antenna and just drop their shit one at a time. But yeah, dude, your story is amazing. Like, yeah, I've heard a lot of different stories. I've been involved with different people that have, you know, gone down, you know, the path of prison or whatever and been on the run. But your shit is so creative, dude. Like, your brain mimics the way that I would think. It's amazing. But yeah, like, so looking at now and how much they can track us, right? So a lot of CIA tools are released to the public. You look at Weeping Angel, how they hacked into smart TVs and activated microphones and cameras but they have to have physical access with USB. And a lot of this just being leaked. So you get like a really good picture of the type of surveillance that the government does. And when I was telling people that, yo, you know, I know they're on my internet, I know they're on my home connection, because they're repeating shit that only I would say to somebody else in another country. And how is it when I show up to an FBI meeting and they bring a translator for Russian if they didn't know I was already communicating with Russians? You know? And so, you know, I was talking to my mom not too long ago, and she's like, you know, do you remember the phone calls you were making to Russia? And I'm like, yeah, was that not like a red flag? I mean, it doesn't take a genius to say, I wonder why my son is like communicating from Midwest, you know, America to Moscow.
Expensive phone call.
Yeah, well, yeah, sort of. We won't go into that. But yeah, so I mean, like, we're built to survive, right? Whether it be on the internet, whether it be in person, we have that mindset to like kick on the creativeness and figure out how to get by. And that's one thing that I went through in the UK was, you know, what do I do? You know, I don't have a passport. I can't work. I got to find a way to live, right? So I started public speaking, and I had a family over there that really looked after me. A Vietnamese family that you know, they're basically like my family. I look at them like my parents. Um, but you learn how to get by, and you learn how to continue doing what you're doing, and it doesn't stop you, right? Um, and then once everything's said and done, you have just that much more experience to pass on to the next guy, right? But yeah, so from here, like from the time I started this group or this podcast, it was a podcast built over a glass of bourbon, and me and my roommate Nomad was like, maybe we should do a podcast. Sounds kind of cool. Let's try it out. I totally expected not to succeed. I totally expected to completely fail, nobody to log in, but that's my mindset. You know, I'm always like my worst critic, right? And then it seemed like a lot of people with the same ideas and principles kind of like came together. But what kills me is like, so Johhny5 shows up. Johhny5 shows up, then Exodus shows up. Exodus shows up, and then all of a sudden Alberto shows up. You know, and it's like, it's that whole like I guess tension on the internet, and people just want to belong to something, to give back, not only to give back, but to find people that their tribe. And that's what I consider this is like, when you look at different groups on the internet, we always found our tribe, people that were like us, and you know, that's how we roll. And then people just tend to follow that, but it's kind of scary, right? So, you know, you start building friendships, and all of a sudden those friendships become like a community. And I'll be honest with you, like there's been times this week where I get so frustrated because I have so many people pulling me different directions, where I literally told a company in Germany that, you know, hey, look, I can't do this. You know, you guys are way too much. Call me at 6 a.m. Done. But I think it's important to like spread like the idea and help people, and like really, you know, get that knowledge trickled down to even like the kids level, because there are kids nowadays, 11 years old, 10 years old, that can do shit that we couldn't do 10 years ago. And it's fucking amazing. So yeah, like, you know, we donate a lot of money and time to those kids. Like we had one on here that's like 11 years old, and we bought him some server time and some equipment and shit. But that's kind of what we're about now. Although I have my own ideas as to where this will probably end up. And I'm probably sure that you guys do too. But we'll just have to
Exodus
see.
made a good point. You know, like you don't have to, you know, steal money to be elite. I can assure you, I never took a nickel, but I was a force to be reckoned with. There was no talk about it.
Still are.
Yeah, I mean, but
dude, so money doesn't mean anything, right?
it
So
didn't drive me. Yeah.
No, if you don't have the money, it doesn't matter, because it's the knowledge that's worth money. That's where the real power is at, is the knowledge. And if we can take what we know, so I post like tons of videos on YouTube. I've made a commitment to at least post a video a day of a walkthrough of some sort of hack, no matter how basic or how advanced. Put that shit out there and share that knowledge, because the government right now is like trying to shut that shit down. YouTube, oh my God, I've so battled with YouTube over the past week. I'll post a video, and if I say crack in the description, shit gets shut down. I'm like,
yeah,
are you serious? Like I can't like do like security walkthroughs because you consider it a threat.
It's a fucking algorithm now, you know. That's why I told you name it Kung Fu, remember?
Yeah. So I did, and it passed. But it's the whole thing about censorship, right? The government doesn't want people to spread knowledge and give people the ability that we have. And they're afraid of that. You know, people are always afraid of
threat without the knowledge.
What's that?
How do you stop the threat without that knowledge? You know?
How are we a threat without the knowledge?
But how can you stop bad actors without that knowledge? Like
you can't, right? So most of the companies I've been hired to is because I have knowledge of offensive and defensive. You can't be a defensive like position within a company for security if you don't know what the hell is going on. If you look at an IDS and say, oh, well, it looks like, you know, there's shell code going across. Well, what created that alert and why did it happen? How do you stop it? They don't know how it's created. They don't know the attack, so they don't know what to do about it. So they freeze up and they're like, oh shit, we're screwed. But you need people like us that can be like, yo, I know that attack. I know that shell code. I know that signature, and this is how you do it, and this is how you stop it.
Yeah,
but
just
still,
watching traffic isn't like that's like you were saying, man. I mean, if all you're relying on is like scene tools or something like that, like you're not gonna stop me, man.
no,
It's
and
not
I
gonna
can throw
happen,
up so many decoys. So I attacked this one place back when I was doing nefarious shit, and I threw in a bunch of decoys, right, of their own internal network. They were blocking their own shit for like 2 hours, like shutting their own network down, and I was watching it like live. I was like, are you really serious? Like, you don't understand like decoy attacks, like, you know? But there's a lot of companies who don't, because they hire people who can pass a background check, who can get a security clearance, and that's all they know. They know what they're taught. That's it.
I'd be surprised if I got a security clearance.
I will never get another security clearance. I don't think they would even let me
Not
the
that I
ability
can't,
to take the
but-
polygraph.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I could pass it.
So with that being said, I'm going to open up questions for everybody. If you want to put it in the chat for me, Exodus, or Johhny5, feel free. And I'll let Ryan moderate the questions as far as, you know, who gets what.
Let's open up. Any questions? Stunning silence. Inquisitive bunch, aren't you? Come on, guys.
It's always silent at first, and then somebody breaks the ice. But also, after we get done with the Q&A, I'm going to walk through some basic like Wi-Fi hacking shit. I don't know, Johhny5, do you have like, did you put together anything for Hashcat or whatever?
I've seen you do a video, so I didn't even bother.
Okay, I'm going to play it. I'm going to share the video and play it, and
yeah,
walk people through it.
Why don't we run through that while people get some questions together, Mike?
Yeah. Let me bring it up really quick. There's a question for Johnny.
What's that?
Do you see the question, Johnny, or do you want me to ask it?
I'm far away.
Didn't you help with a group on digging into FaceApp, the digging of FaceApp?
I work with a group called Anti-Info, and we went after, I mean, everybody. Gab was one of them. FaceApp, yes. So I always made that joke too, because Gab only followed like 102 people, right? And I was one of them, and it was just to keep track of my ass, to make sure I wasn't fucking their shit up. Because when they first launched, you know, we just wasn't a sense of like censorship or anything like that. What it was for me, at least, was, you know, I understand you want people there to have free speech and stuff like that, but when it spills into the street, you know, like blood-wise, you know, we had issue with that. Anonymous and other groups, you know, were, in my view, the great equalizer. You know, we didn't care what your political party was, or, you know, what you were about.
We were your political party.
Right.
Hey, so what advice would you give to youngsters like tempted to go down the route of doing down the illegal route, no pun intended?
I would say, if your curiosity gets the best of you, you know, that's what it was for me. You know, I believed in what I was doing was right, and not only that, you know, my black hat days, I would say, you know, where I was, you know, throwing around malware and stuff like that, you know, even still, all I did was, you know, if anything, open the command prompt 30 times, you know, so I never really intended to like destroy shit. Some of the issues I have, so I would give the advice of the old hacker mentality. We you know, we never attacked hospitals. You know, we didn't lick up schools or anything like that, you know, so I would just suggest, you know, whichever route you go, just, you know, just keep your head level, you know, don't do nothing stupid that, you know, is going to hurt somebody, you know, because it's just not worth it. You know, you end up going to jail for something retarded, and it's just not how,
Hey,
how real
Ghost.
hackers think. You know?
Yeah.
Since your return to normality, how have you acclimatized to new tech and hacking methodologies?
Oh man.
Oh, let me take a look. It's been slow for me, mainly because of my demanding work schedule. My main thing was just getting back on Linux and just trying to be a functional user at Linux, and that's over and done with. For me, it's been a lack of time, because I'm coming out of prison. It's only been a year now, from the ground up, with no help, and no resources that I have been aware of. So everything that I've been learning has been from my friends. Wireless penetration is different nowadays than it was for me back then, because back then we weren't contending against encrypted HTTPS. So data packets were in a readable format back then. And most people, the like industry standard was WEP. Nobody uses that anymore. Nobody uses WEP. And
Those were the days.
you know, Metasploit has made some changes. It's not really different, but I've been learning a little bit more about that. But my main thing, my sole focus right now is blind cross-site script injection. So that's what I'm focusing all my energy on right now, and literally nothing else.
Okay, what else we got? Hey, Johnny.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go, Mike?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Answer those questions, and I'll start the video here in a minute.
Yeah, I see one in there for that.
Sean Van wants to know what you're doing now for employment. How do you keep yourself busy?
So during last year, when I made the decision to walk away from, like, you know, hacktivism and stuff like that, you know, I run a few websites and stuff like that. So, you know, in the beginning of the year, you know, I started doing contracts and working with a couple of firms that work in cybersecurity, and they would hire me, you know, basically as a black hat, gray hat hacker. You know, they didn't give a shit. And that was for government level entities and stuff like that. So, you know, it was basically like slam the door, give me a report. So that's what I've been trying to focus on. You know, post hacktivism and hacking, I look to move more forward into InfoSec and stay in the industry. You know, I worked in more of a blue team role when I was an IT manager. So, you know, it's been a little bit of a transition for me, because people always ask me, you know, like, why haven't you, like, you know, got so far in? It's like, all right, like, I already live a double life. Like, I couldn't live a triple life, right? So so I just feel like, you know, now is the time, and you know, I got in my mid 30s, and you just kind of feel like, man, I'm old now, you know, like, let the kids take care of it. You know, I'm gonna go be you know, what they call an old fag, right?
So there's another question too about, you know, what about your past keeps you up at night? And I can honestly say that 100% of it keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what's happening tomorrow, who's working for who, why are people approaching me in a certain way. It gives you a different outlook on people and the world in general. Because I don't think that people understand the level of like psyops the FBI and different investigators do. Like, they really fuck with your head, and it takes you a very long time to get past that shit. So I still have dreams or thoughts about what happened before and what's going on now, and if I can trust so-and-so or people's motivations. So I know that's probably the same for Patrick and Exodus.
Yeah, I literally came up in the hacking community with a zero trust level. I was lucky to have the same hacker handle like the next week. And then I think that's part of how I was successful in lasting as long as I did. You know, Johhny5 just kind of stuck, and And I noticed that over the last few years, you know. I was thinking to myself, like, I was talking to a friend, you know, and she mentioned, she was like, you know, maybe you should walk when you still can walk. I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What about you, Exodus?
Yeah, go ahead.
I always repeat this mantra. It's not my fight anymore. It's not my fight anymore. And somehow I still get sucked up into it. I have friends who will get hit by a scammer, and I'll find out who that scammer is.
Yeah.
And I keep telling myself, like, there's a new generation now. I don't have anything to do with this, but I always find some way to get sucked back up. I can't let it go sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Wayne asks, what is your view of the dark web? Opportunity, threat, or both? I think depends on which way you look at it, right? So I kind of wear a gray hat, kind of dance between white and black, and you know, I try not to do anything illegal, but it's both. It provides me, you know, a place to work because I do intelligence, makes me money, but it's also a threat because more time I spend there. And I'm sure that Johhny5 and Exodus can agree that there's always that fine line of temptation where at any one point you could be like, you could flip that switch. That switch is always there. And it's like, I can't even explain it. You know, normal people, I don't think would understand it. But it's always that temptation of, you know, do I go back to doing what I was doing because I'm comfortable with it and it's who I am? Or do I play along and contain myself?
I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to explain, like, computer hacking to people. Like, I try to show people, like, what I do, you know, and stuff like that on my laptop, and like, they don't even like get like how I'm able to like hack into shit, you know, and like I never touch a graphical interface, you know, so everything's through the command line, and and they're looking at it like what the fuck are you even doing? And then I'll like show them the website, you know, like, look, you know, like I'll deface it and then I'll show you, you know, and they're like, oh, you know, you really defaced that? And I was like, yeah. Like, all I did was replace the index file.
I'm a little bit different when it comes to that because I see the opportunity. Like, so I'll scan a whole entire country's net block and find all the shit, right? Like Syria, when I found their atomic energy email, you know, looking at that and going, you know, I know that I can get in there. I know that I can get some really good info, but how much time is it going to take? By the time I get in there, will they knock on my door and throw me in a black van? You know, so it's those things that you have to weigh out. But to be honest with you, it's one of those things that really like grips me inside. Like I have to like really fight that shit.
It's curiosity kills the cat.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Interpol.
9 lives.
Yeah, I've used up 9.5. I don't know how many I have left.
Yeah, about 7 of mine gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's that temptation. That temptation is always there. Just like with anybody, like normal people, right? The temptation of doing something wrong is always there. But it's how you look at it and the way you look back, right? So there's times where I really hate the government and I really want to go do what I did before. But then I realize what I went through and do I really want to go through that shit again? You know, it was brutal.
It's kind of vague, you know, because it's like
It's a hefty price to pay.
we fucking smacked up the government, you know, but it's like on the other sense, it's like, okay, well, why are we doing that then? You know what I mean? They never look at the why. They're just like, oh, well, you're fucking up our website. And it's just like, okay, well, why? Let's look at that.
So in answer to Sean Van, he was asking about giving the podcast some airtime. Absolutely, you can advertise this on LinkedIn. It'll be on Techstrong TV as well. One other thing. So Michael Finley says normal people only know GUI. Well, then I guess I'm an alien because I never did GUI interfaces. People getting into the industry and like trying to learn security tools, you'll learn really quick that, okay, pull up Wireshark GUI and see how fast it crashes as opposed to running TCP dump from command line. Perfect example.
With TCP dump, you know, you could just, you know, write into a text file and cat it out and see what happens. It's so easy for hackers to do that, you know, like whereas everybody's trying to, you know, use something that they're comfortable and colorful, you know. That's what you got to stay away from.
So Kristen's asking about mental health aspects of all of what we go through. That's a brutal one, right? So our industry already has mental health issues. Like I just recently lost a friend to suicide in Austin, who I literally talked to him a week before he took his life, and there was no indications whatsoever. But again, you know, just like the name haunted hacker and ghost or whatever, there's things we all battle with on a personal level that I would say like 90% of us that do what we do have a hard time communicating that part of our psyche to people. We tend to keep that kind of closed off and deal with it on our own level. I talked to Chris Roberts not too long ago about the same issue. We had the guy who committed suicide was a mutual friend. And it's weird because like a lot of us have like really high IQs and we, you know, we're very intelligent.
Was it 197?
Yeah. But we have like a really difficult issue, like communicating on, I guess, an emotional human level. So we've lost a lot of people like Aaron Swartz. That was a huge loss to our industry. Like that was big. And there's several others. But when you get to a certain level where, especially like when you've gone through investigations, when you've been pressured by law enforcement or government, there's a certain amount of information you don't tell anybody. And that's kind of internal, and you fight with that every day.
I think the way I battled that was, you know, it's like you said, it's very hard for computer hackers because one thing that it was another thing that pushed me away to get out of hacktivism was the mental health aspect of it. You get so lost up in what you're doing, and you know, while whatever you think and believe in whatever you're doing, you end up spending every day, you know, you go to work and then you come home and then that's the first thing you do. You're logging into IRC channels and you're talking to your friends, and then you're trying to get after targets, and that's your life, you know. And then before you know it, you know, you're just like, shit, you know, like I'm 36, like what the fuck happened? Like maybe I should go like travel or something. Like
36.
Yeah,
I wish I was 36 again. But yeah, like, so, and that brings up another point. I know it's not a question, but being pulled in different directions, right? So that's one of my frustrations. Like, I don't know how to like say no, because I want to like help everybody. I want to like, you know, fulfill whatever they want. But dude, like sometimes I have to sit back and go, where am I in all this shit? You know, like, do I get my time? Do I get what I want? Or am I just like, you know, I like punish myself because of what happened and like feel like I have to do shit for everybody. And that's a very fine line. That's a huge fine line.
Yeah, it's rough for people who go through mental health. Like that's something that like I was always a big advocate of that, you know, even when I was a hacktivist, I would retweet it all the time because it just, people have to realize that, you know, when you isolate yourself like that and you get into hacktivism, hacking, it can be problematic.
Well, and not only that, but people like us that have, you know, an ability that most people don't have, and our brains work differently. We spend a lot of time in our head. I think I could probably speak for most of us is that we spend probably 90% in our head. Whether working out problems or fighting demons. And when people say, you know, what's on your mind? I'm like, fuck, how much time you got? You know, where do I start?
I know, right? Where's my chair?
Yeah, exactly. You know, so another question earlier, what am I drinking? So my go-to drink is Fireball, Evan Williams, and a Cinnamon Jolly Rancher. So that's my go-to. Yeah.
I was going to get some liquor, but...
Be right back.
All right, man. We got you. So Sean Van says, your stories are incredible. Would love to see all you regain your place in society. I'm doing my part to ensure healthcare embraces your skills. So yeah, so healthcare is really important. They're a major target right now, especially with the pandemic.
That shit, I
Yeah.
never tolerated that as a hacker. Like, that's not how we roll, man.
I think the first confirmed death or kill was this year or last year with healthcare. Attacker hit a hospital, shut down their systems, and someone on life support died. So that was like the first confirmed hacking kill, direct kill from a compromise.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine that when I was like 16 years old, but we just didn't see it that way. That's not. Not.
So I have an embedded medical device in my chest that really like keeps me alive. And getting the company Medtronic to understand that I don't want Bluetooth enabled on my pacemaker was like a fucking nightmare. They were like, well, we need to communicate. And I'm like, no, we don't need to communicate. Like, as long as this shit is doing its job, I don't need anybody getting access to my pacemaker in my chest. Like, no, thank you. But I think the more that we progress as society and science, more of these life-changing devices are going to be implanted. And dude, it's not a good outlook when you look at like the state of
hacking. I think that hackers like us, and stuff like that. There was this Cyber 19 community or something. I think, what is it? Mr. Reboot Dan or something.
Daniel Card. Daniel Card is a good friend of mine.
Yeah. Dan Card. Yeah. And I knew him as a hacktivist, but he sees me on Twitter now, and I have a personal profile. He's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Good
but
dude.
He knew the other Johhny5. He knew who the fuck I was.
So. Kaylee asked about Elon Musk's Neuralink, since we're talking about medical devices. So Neuralink, right? I don't think it's what it is supposed to be. I think he put that shit together to make money for SpaceX. I don't think Neuralink will ever be a thing. The military worked with RFID and sensors in the uniforms to look at body temperature, heart rate, stuff like that, to report back to see which troop is having a hard time, or like maybe on the brink of dying or whatever. But Neuralink can be really ethically dangerous. If that happens, if it gets put into play, hackers around the world are going to be blowing shit up, because Neuralink is like really dangerous. And I think we're on the So I think we're on the edge of like some really scary shit as far as like robots, AI, machine learning. Me and Nomad watched a video on a robot from Boston Electronic, I think it was, where they were like teaching these robots to like walk and stabilize. And some of it was like Hollywood, but it made you think. Like, you look back to the Matrix and the machines taking over and whatever. You combine AI with some of this, robotics, it's going to get bad.
Well, that's what is going to make hackers more resourceful, right? I mean, what fucking movie that you ever seen about the end of days where a hacker doesn't come in and, what is it? Independence Day, shit like that,
well, like that one Bruce Willis, when they brought in the hacker to like help out with the SCADA shit. I mean, that's for real. That's legit.
Yeah. Matthew Farrell, man, everybody knows Matthew.
From the Apple commercials.
I know. What was that song by Flyleaf and shit? I always listen to. I thought that was cool, because I'm like, they even had him listening to hacker music when they fucking showed that. It was pretty funny.
All right, so I'm going to break away and put on this video. I posted the link to the video. There's some background noise. I don't know who's not muted, but
not me.
Oh, it's okay, Exodus. I got it. Yeah, so I'm going to go over. I posted the link on the chat for the Kung Fu WPA2. let me back this up a little bit. If you guys want to bring it up, and I'm going to share my screen. We'll try that.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll try that and see if it works. I'm going to stop that share and start another one. All right, portion of the screen. I guess maybe. We'll see.
Oh, pretty.
No, not pretty. Not the right one. Let's see. I really don't like Zoom, to be honest with you. I would really love to get away from this platform.
Sponsors.
Okay, desktop 2. There we go. Okay, we're good. All right. So can you guys see my screen?
You can.
Yeah, cool. All right, so the graphics are like a little bit bad because it's from YouTube. But what I'm doing here is I'm looking at a WPA2 protected router. And I'm going to pop up arrow dump to look at all the access points and figure out which one I want to target. And then I'm going to go after the handshake. So the handshake is really important. And you can do this one of two ways, right? You can sit and wait for somebody to attach to the access point and get that handshake for the password or the hash, or you can use MDK3 or MDK4 and bump a client off of the access point and force them to reconnect. With this one, I'm just literally doing it passively because you don't want to cause too many like alarms or raise red flags. So I'm going to play the video. I'm going to talk over the video while it's going on. Hopefully the volume and the music in the background is not going to like hamper anything. So, all right, I'm looking for the access point, and we're going to find it here shortly. So we found a Netgear. And I look at the Netgear and I specifically sniff that BSSID, and I grab another device and I associate with that access point. And there you see the handshake, right? Hopefully that's clear. So I save that file and I run it through AirCrack with the BSSID and the password. And literally within like seconds, we find the WPA2 password. So one thing I need to let you know is that I'd already added in the password to that access point, but you can get like dictionary files of like thousands or millions of passwords, and that helps. But you know, there's other ways to do it. I'm not going to go into the more malicious ways. But there you can see like the WPA2, the hash is what's most important. And be able to get that. You can also set up like an evil access point or evil twin to get people to attach to your access point. And the way you do that is use like MDK3 or 4 and DOS the like legit access point and force people to connect to yours. And that way you can grab the password because it's cached and run that shit like legit. Or you can just let them connect your evil access point and sniff their traffic. Doesn't matter. But what I do is when I like hack an access point or any device, I take that password and I load it into my password list. I use rocku.txt as a base for those passwords because it's like a ton of them. But then you can also use like polymorphic password lists that take a password and like kind of mutate it against like leet speak and different forms of variations. And also rainbow tables is really good. So back in the day when I did like SIGINT, like Wi-Fi, VoIP, interception of voice communications, RF, that was my shit, right? So with this type of attack, you're looking at kind of the same methodology. You know, you're wanting to grab that signal, but you're trying to find it without raising red flags and setting off all kinds of alerts. So yeah, like try this at home, set up a router, a Wi-Fi router, use like a weak password just to start out with, and bump somebody and collect that handshake. The handshake is key. And what happens is like, so they use packets that are called IV packets, right? And the IV packets actually indicate like, you know, hey, this is a combination of a TCP handshake, and it says, hey, look, I'm trying to associate with this access point, and here's what I know about this access point. And so that's passed within, the Wi-Fi and the 802.11, and you can intercept that and get all kinds of information. There's also another thing called a Reaver, which takes advantage of WPS. So if you have an access point that utilizes WPS and fits that mold for that vulnerability, you can actually solicit that router for WPS and get the PIN number. And then you can associate without any problem. So those are just some of the easy Wi-Fi hacks. I didn't want to go into too much depth. I posted a lot of videos on YouTube this week as far as different types of attacks. I'm going to go into encrypting shellcode on YouTube this week, using different things like jar signer and zip-align and stuff like that. One of the videos is already up regarding making APKs and signing them with jar signer, which is really important to get the Google Play Store to ignore your shit, so you can really infiltrate different phones and stuff. So again, you guys have any questions, post them. I'll explain. As far as Wi-Fi goes, I'm sure that Patrick and Exodus can also put in 2 cents as far as Wi-Fi.
WPA3.
WPA who?
W what?
What was that meme that was going around when that script crack came out?
Oh yeah.
And the fucking kid was holding the Ethernet cable. He goes, "Fuck crack."
Yeah. So, dude, Wi-Fi was the worst invention ever. I don't, there was a need for it as far as operations go and people's convenience, but the security was not well thought out at all.
No, not even a little bit.
So
all you have to do is DAuth, and the fucking person connects to your access point.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Pineapples work. I was just gonna say pineapples work the best in that situation.
Yeah. So Drake, I don't know if he's still on or not, but he sent me a Wi-Fi Pineapple Nano that's USB.
Nice.
And I've been doing some stuff with that. I love pineapples, but I think I'm gonna pass that on to Exodus and let him play with some pineapple. Because that's one of the technologies I know he hasn't seen yet. So it might be good to get your hands on that shit.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah,
I'm sure it won't take you long, man. Come on, it ain't been that long. I mean, he knows. He's smiling because he knows it's gonna just take a little bit of time, man. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Googling right now. What is a pineapple? What is it?
It's not the fruit.
Damn it, Google doesn't know.
So I've taken it upon myself to kind of help Exodus out, bring him up to speed with some of the shit.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so there's a lot of shit that we can do as a community, help each other out and send each other equipment and stuff. I would suggest, if you guys plan on sending me equipment, give me a 2-week or 3-week heads up, because the U.S. Postal Service does not like me, and for some reason my shit goes all around the world and not to my mailbox. Literally, I had a shipment from North Carolina to Alabama, and the shit got stuck in customs. And I'm like, did I miss something? So I've been in Europe. Is North Carolina a different country? Yeah.
No diplomatic immunity.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one thing that's cool. I don't know, Exodus, I don't know if you've seen rubber duckies or played with those, but I have a few of those if you want one.
What the hell? I had a rubber ducky when I was a kid, but I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Way more fun, man.
Yeah.
Way more fun.
Oh, you're gonna love those. You
Can't
just
take
plug
it
it
in
in.
the bath, though, man. Can't take it in the bath.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple videos up on YouTube if you want to check those out. There's one that's
Absolutely.
Remote PowerShell through rubber ducky.
Nice.
USB. But anyways,
Hack5 even has their own C2 server now.
Dude, and it's free, bro. It's free, completely free.
I love it.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about with Hack5 C2 is I know the connections Hack5 has, and I'm worried about who has eyes into that C2.
everybody.
So there's another solution for that. Don't use their C2, but you can code your shit to connect back up to an IRC server. So I have an IRC server here. So if you guys want to like hook shit up or play around with whatever, I can throw that shit into a DMZ and you guys can play with that.
That's what's up.
Yeah. I don't want to host it 24/7 because IRC is like chaos, but yeah, we can use it to test stuff. So what other questions do we have? This is your chance. Like, you're not going to get this panel probably again for a long time. Yeah.
What do we got?
Hey, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Okay, there are several times I'm trying to simulate a, let's just say this. I'm trying to get into this wireless access point that's using WPA2. And I understand that the method, the normal method for cracking the password. But let me ask you this: how do you deploy the attack from your GPU?
Well, so the GPU looks at, so if you're using Hashcrack, right? That was another one of the things I was going to cover, but I didn't have time to like actually film the video. So everything I did was a automated attack of what you can do manually. So you can actually go in and do like, there's a tool that you can actually grab the handshake and import that into Hashcrack, right? Okay. So with Hashcrack, you're using GPU, which is a graphics driver or a unit, and you're using that GPU like memory or whatever to run through different hashes that may match up with that password. So you can do that on your laptop or whatever, but really, to be honest with you, most WPA2 passwords, unless you're dealing with like a big corporation, you can bust with an aircrack and a good password list. But the difference is when you use aircrack as opposed to hashcrack with a GPU. So let's say it's a complex password, you're looking at like 4 or 5 days with aircrack. With hashcat, you're looking at like a day. So it's processing power when it comes to using a GPU. Now, so you bring that up. We created a thing at Mantech called the Kraken. So the mythical creature that attacks ships or whatever. We built a thing where we had multiple Raspberry Pis that was using like distributed computing and Hashcat. So you run that shit through Hashcat, and multiple systems like take bites out of it.
Yeah,
runs really good.
That's my favorite.
Nice. Okay.
Like, yeah. There's also some stuff like rule, using like base 64 rules and stuff like that, and suffix, because you can make a word list basically from say you're trying to get into somebody's website or something like that, and you pile on a bunch of different shit from the website into a word list, and then run different stuff. There's so much shit involved with it.
Yeah, not only that,
on the Wi-Fi.
I think the next video I do, besides the encryption of payloads, is going to be Responder. Responder is so effective, right? So I went to a hotel and launched Responder on their Wi-Fi network, and I was getting passwords and NTLM hashes from multiple like corporations around the world. So basically, WPAD, it'll solicit different machines for that response. In that response, you can have NTLM, you can have like browser passwords. There's all kinds of stuff that Responder can collect. Maybe we'll go to that next time.
Responder is a good tool.
Yeah,
I use it a lot.
Yeah, I have LandTurtle. So LandTurtle has Responder built into it. So maybe we'll go over like some LandTurtle attacks. But really, like the people listening and asking questions, what is it you want to see? I'm sure between the three of us and other people on the podcast, we can cover pretty much any attack. Just let us know what it is and either email me or post it in Discord, and we'll get on that.
Just as a note, on the Discord, we've got a mental health channel as now, going back to the what we were talking about just before.
Badass. So I know that Cham is working on, she's working on becoming a cyber psychologist, right? So we kind of got into it like looking at a book called, I think it was called Cyber Attack or Cyber something. But anyways, it looks at the effects of the internet on different personalities and how they evolve and what they become. So maybe she can lend some insight into that mental health channel.
That'd be great, man. That'd be really good.
It would be.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things I focused on. My first speaking tour is called Inside the Mind of a Hacker. And I try to trace back what made me who I am and what made me do the things I did. And so I learned a lot about myself and a lot about how the internet has affected our generation and even like the younger generations, which is really scary because we've become so disconnected as people and more connected on more of a mental, higher level, which can be really dangerous if it's used in the wrong way. So any other questions?
Something about attacks, penetrating Active Directory.
Active Directory.
Entering again, buddy.
I would suggest, what do you mean, like attacking Active Directory?
Yeah, I think that's what they're talking about.
I'd check out a tool called Bloodhound. Bloodhound's a really good tool to, you know, basically prowl around and see where you can escalate your privileges, because more than likely when you get on a Windows box, you're not going to have administrative rights, obviously. So, you know, when you first, that's a post-exploit tool. And there's, you know, obviously other means and tools, you know, used if you're blunt force into Active Directory, you know, depending on what you're trying to do.
There's also one that works against domain controllers, right? So it solicits like the different groups. So you can see which users have admin or domain admin, and then you can go after those specific devices. I can't remember what the name of the tool is, but I'll follow that up and post it into the Discord.
Yeah, some privilege escalation would be good to do some videos on too, man.
Yeah,
maybe even a Hacker 9 course.
Yeah, so that's actually happening. That was submitted to Hacker 9. The course outline's been approved, so they're working on that. So I should. That's
cool, man. I've seen them retweet our stuff. I was like, I mean, I just can't believe Hacking 9. I was like almost crying. I was like, oh my God. It was like our podcast is retweeted by them. It's like, that's so cool, man.
So they approached me, I guess it was about a month ago, and said, hey, look, would you like to do a course on privilege escalation on Linux and Windows? And I said, well, I'll start on Windows and we can do 2 courses. So that outline has been submitted, accepted, and before their committee right now. I'm just waiting on word to start like the actual development, which really shocked me too. When I saw that they were retweeting our podcast, I was like, whoa, that's like 34,000 followers.
I know, right?
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy.
They're big stuff for sure, man. I definitely, it was cool to see, you know, because I mean, like you and Exodus, you know, we all grew up with those magazines and 2600 and shit like that, you know. It's, dude, to see the support, you know, you're kind of just like it. Like I said, it was almost like brought me to tears. I was just like, God damn, it's like Hacking 9.
Yeah, so
cool, man.
When I made the book, 2600, I think it's called like Dear Hacker or some shit like that.
Yeah, I see that.
When I made it into that book, I was like, whoa, you know, that's my post. What, you know, it's just weird, you know. And then when you sit back and like look at where we've come from with this server, Discord server and podcasts and everything that's going on with it, the Australian branch and the logos and the following, it's like, dude, this was just like a small idea, like literally over a cup of bourbon with my roommate Nomad, and it's become like this like biological like entity that's like growing. And to be honest with you, it scares the fuck out of me because Anonymous did the same thing and we didn't expect it to grow the way it did. And so, yeah, I mean, it's sort of the same.
I think one thing that you're doing differently that I've seen, you know, because remember I was kind of talking with other people, you know, and I remember that, like you said, that story when you became CISO and stuff like that. And I've seen that article and the thing, and I was still a hacktivist then. And I was thinking like, man, I'm like, look at that. I'm like fucking anonymous right on the front page.
Yeah,
I'm like, he's a CISO, you know. It's like it gave me, I guess, as I got older, you know, like a way to like, you know, look forward, you know, like you know, it just helped me realize that there's life after hacktivism and hacking. And
but the thing is like we're not geared for the corporate world, and I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons when it comes to coming from our group to the public, right? I've had a lot of people use me for certain things and not pay me, just wanting that label on their company. So people who are involved in hacktivism now who may be listening, you got to be really careful because a lot of people will take advantage of you because they know they can. Because I know that like when you come out of those depths and out of those shadows that you want to help people and you want to become somebody, and they give you this like beautiful package. Oh, we can do this, we can do that, and then they totally screw you. And it's wrong, you know. And it makes me, when I went through that shit, it was like, do I really want to be on this side of the fence anymore? Because these people don't give a shit about me. So why do I have to play the game? Why can't I go back to like doing what I did? But I realized that no matter what they do, it's not going to stop me from like helping somebody else. So
I think like I said, what you're doing, you know, you're bringing pretty much, you know, as far as underground hacker as you can get with industry leaders, you know, CISOs and different people that lead in the IT industry. I think that, you know, if the combination happens, you know, all it does is it makes everybody better. You know what I mean? Because you know, our perspective on like cyber war and I mean, just a number of different things. You know, like you were talking about, you know, but the actual hacking, like like I said, it's a whole other level when it's done illegally. It's not the same when you're paid to do it. You know, because you know, you get a PDF or you submit your report. It doesn't work like that on the other side. Guys are really getting in some shit. So
you know, that's the hard part is conforming, right? So I do a lot of like legitimate pen tests for large corporations, and I have to look at it from their point of view, but I also give like my commentary. Like if I was an attacker, this is what I would do, and I wouldn't do it within this scope. But that's the type of thing that they, you know, they thrive on. They want somebody legit who has that skill set to do the test. So I fulfill that section, and like our team, our group, our crew, like that's what we do. Like when someone comes in a group, we all contribute and like protect each other. And that's how it is. Corporations, they don't give a shit about people, period.
You're expendable.
Yeah. So they work on a different level as opposed to what we do for each other. But I think the more I talk about it on a public platform about, you know, learn your people, be with your people and like learn who they are and trust them and get to know them. That shit's important beyond anything else.
I think that one thing like that I've been, you know, learning over the past year at least, you know, getting to know everybody in the community. It's just like, man, they're fucking just like me, you know, like I meet people like I forgot, you know, we were just talking about playing the guitar. You know, I can't tell you how many hackers I know play the guitar. So it's like man, I'm like, they all got fucking hobbies like me and everything. Like I'm like, where are these people in my life?
but what's
I don't even know a friend that, you know.
So what's funny is I did an analysis on people like us and people that have our skill set. And what I've learned is that what we do is an art. It's creativity, right? It's creative, and we look at things a different way. When I look at a pen test, I don't look at IP addresses. I look at how I'd maneuver through that system graphically in my head, right? So everybody I interviewed for pen testing or my teams have always had some kind of artistic ability, whether it be music, whether it be painting, whether it be drawing, whatever. There's always some creative aspect to it. And
hackers are naturally creative, you know. I've always thought outside the box, you know. When my friends were thinking, like, I was always thinking of some other shit.
yeah,
Like, what if we try this? You know, I don't know. It's just a mindset that.
Yeah, and that can't be taught. That's something that can't be taught, and that's why I explain to people, like, especially on my first tour, like hackers, you know, inside the mind of hackers, that there are certain things that I can teach people, and I can make them effective at like breaking, you know, whatever service or whatever using shellcode. But I can't teach them to be creative. I can't teach them, you know, to be able to put themselves into a different view of what's going on and maneuver a system. And it sounds really lame, right? So the Matrix, the movie, really lame. And they go through like the Matrix in this visual sequence, and they see buildings and binary and whatever. But to be honest with you, that's legit. Like, so when I think of,
I
like,
thought this shit was cool.
yeah, so when I think of servers and I think of like a network infrastructure, I look at myself going through different parts of the network and like, where do I go from here? It's like a maze, right? But when you look at like people who don't have the ability and like are like IT professionals or network admins, they don't look at it that way. They look at it as, well, I was taught this configuration works for this device and this is the way it goes. But we look at it from a completely different direction.
If I was to compare myself, no offense, and I was an IT manager, like if I compared myself to, like, I would always be in like conferences and shit. And this is why I was like, you know, part of like 30 fucking hacking groups, right? And I would always be like, man, these dudes don't even fucking know the half of it. But, you know, like I said, it's so hard, you know. It was hard for me because, like you were talking about in the beginning, I always feared that if I said something to somebody, you know, if that shit leaked out and people found out like what groups I actually rolled with in the hacking industry, or not industry, but community, you know, I'd be in jail in a heartbeat. You know, I just felt like always like I had to hide it. You know, it was just the weirdest shit ever, you know.
And it branches off into like multiple facets of your personal life, right? So you protect what you think should be private and protect people around you, but you end up doing that with shit you shouldn't.
Right.
And I can't explain that. I think it's the combination of working in intelligence in the military and have to be very secretive about what I do, and then the hacking part on top of it. Which made me like a very secretive person. Like, you know, I can't tell this person this. I can't tell people any of this shit.
No.
But now it's come to the point where I'm at a different level. And I was told by a journalist that your role in the world right now is to be completely vocal. Because if something does happen, people will ask questions. Because
the cybersecurity industry and InfoSec in general, you know, they need, you know, voices like, you know, like ours. Like, you know, we've experienced the birth of hacking in a general sense. I mean, you know, of course, it's been around however many decades, but
since Roman times.
The 2000s, let me tell you, the 2000s, like Exodus and everybody, like different groups that I've come up with, like it really took off then. It really became something to do. It was
dude, it's something
culture, you know.
Yeah, it's something special, right? So I did a documentary in Vegas, I think it was 2008, called Hackers Are People Too. And
right.
Yeah, so like our generation, our skill set, we're like very few. People think that CEH and all that shit, like, it's a big fucking industry, and
I read that book.
Dude, it's lame, right? So when you look at the skilled people who have history, people who have like, who've made a mark in, you know, security and hacking, there's very few. I can name like 5 off the top of my head that help contribute to what we are now. Like, like Ralph Eshmadia, the ethical hacker, Barrett Brown. There's there's just like a hand view, right? But it's such a small community that we all know each other, and we've all contributed to what we are now. And
I remember Barrett in the IRC channels. Him and Top Perry, I swear you couldn't have your drink near you, because if you were reading the threads while they were talking,
you're spitting.
You're spitting shit out, because they were just so brazen with what they said. They didn't give a fuck.
but it hasn't stopped. So I talked to Barrett like a couple weeks ago, and
yeah,
I mean, he's still the fiery, like, let's do this type of person. But again, like, we created this availability for ethical hacking. Like, when I came into what I know as security, like, there was no CEH, right? There was no certifications for that type of shit. I helped develop CEH like 1.2. And back then, like, there really was no pen testers. Like, they looked at us as, hey, we want to get some shit done. We'll pay some money under the table, cash, whatever, help us out. But now it's like a legit job. And so, like,
I'm not gonna lie, like, when I was sitting in a library in like 2004, I couldn't imagine one day that somebody would hand me money to hack into something. I would have been like, what? Like, really? Like, that's cool, man. Like, let's do this.
And even now, like, so when I work with companies like from the Canary Islands and Dubai, it's like PayPal, Bitcoin, payments, they understand this shit. They understand, the secrecy, they understand the protection. And that wasn't legit back then. Like,
I remember Bitcoin, it was like, what was it, 2007 or 8?
Yeah.
And I was on the dark net, right? And some kids like, I'll sell you 30 coins to, for $30. Yeah. I'm like, fuck you, bro. I'm like, I don't want nothing to do with that shit, right? Years later, the dude's like a millionaire, right? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I should have fucking bought him, like.
So Exodus is talking through chat. He dropped video. I think he has a problem with his connection, but he said there used to be a listing for surviving BBSs back in 2008. So back in 1997, I think it was, I had hacked into the Nuclear Subcommittee BBS. And that was, so someone had dropped a hint in 2600, and it was kind of like a encrypted, like cryptic type message through 2600 magazine. And I hit that shit and broke into the BBS. Got me in a lot of trouble, got me a letter that I ended up framing and putting on the wall, as far as like, hey, don't do this shit again. But yeah, like BBS back in the day was like the bomb.
I think that my first like real hack, like I told who was it on Twitter, Alyssa Miller. She don't even know who the fuck I am, but but I dialed a random number, in like 1998, 1999, something like that. And they called a London phone-based service. Remember the black box, blue box shit?
Yeah.
Steve Jobs. How you got free long distance.
Captain Crunch.
Right. Yeah, Captain Crunch. Yeah, they got a whistle for him at DEF CON or something.
Yeah, bro.
I don't know. I was like, so I called this phone service, and the lady hangs up, and I heard the dial tone. And if you know payphones, you know that the fuck shit reset, and I had a free tone. So we figured out that there was a switching board that was fucked up. So, and it was funny too, because after high school, I would drive past with my mom, and there would be like 30 kids lined up outside the payphone. And my mom's like, what did you do? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I just dialed a random number. I'm like, they get free long distance.
Yeah. So Ryan talked about the 2600 hertz, and that's where the Captain Crunch, that's where the whistle came from. And I'm about to post another link.
I remember people, they were posting it on Twitter, and I'm like, what the fuck is a Captain Crunch whistle? Because I've been a hacker so long that I've never even been to fucking DEF CON.
So like, you're in a different generation than me, because we didn't have Twitter back in the day. Like, it was literally BBS and email back and forth. And when Captain Crunch came out, like that exploit for freaking, Like that was like a game changer. But
Yeah.
with that being said, you know, you talk about hackers, you talk about monumental changes and shit like that. Let's
You know,
not
one thing I noticed, and real quick, is something that me and another friend, and you could probably agree, is a lot of hackers are gamers. I think gaming really brings out creativity in people. You know what I mean?
So Kaspersky, I have a meeting with them on next week about I think it's called Hunter Hacker. It's a documentary they're doing on Netflix. And so they want me to be a part of a documentary about how gaming and kids, how they get groomed for more like nefarious cyber crimes. So, and that brings up a big deal about like gaming and online systems and shit like that, and letting your kids like run free on Roblox and Minecraft and all that stuff. That's going to be big, and that's going to be coming.
What was it? AOL when 3.0 came out and stuff like that. I remember, you know, I was always looking around. I'm like looking for Mortal Kombat cheat codes and shit like that. That's how I stumbled into IRC channels, by the way.
Yeah,
that's what led me down the fucked up road. I was looking for Mortal Kombat.
And that leads me to the APK that I did for Cyberpunk 2077.apk. So you post that shit on Reddit and let it roll. Dude,
did they fix that game?
They fixed it, but when you tell people you have a mobile version and you post that APK on the internet, dude, it blows up. And so I could own pretty much any Android device based on that game. Not saying I did it, but you know, it's a possibility. It's a complete possibility. So yeah, my daughter hacks on Roblox. Yeah, dude, Ghost, I don't doubt that your daughter hacks on everything. I would hide my microwave if I was you.
Right.
So any other questions for the panel, for Ryan, for me, for Ghost, for Johhny5? This is your last chance. Yeah, Minecraft is really crazy. I can own your entire network through building a device on Minecraft.
Make good botnets, yep.
Yeah, dude. My Minecraft servers are so easy to deploy, like literally less than 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, and Exodus says his mic is null. It's okay, dude. You're good. I'm reading. I do have the ability to like read outside of ones and zeros. Very little.
Yeah, trying to explain that to a normal person, the binary system.
Dude, so Amazon, right? So look up binary bracelet on Amazon. They legit have a bracelet that's ones and zeros. Yeah, check it out. It's cool.
Yeah, I always wanted to get like a tattoo like that.
I have one. It's right there.
Nice.
Yeah, and a QR code.
QR code. Yeah.
Yeah.
And hex. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's the base 64 man?
That's future.
Oh, future.
Oh, so Ghost says he has binary on his left wrist. Prove it or it didn't happen.
Yeah. Pick or get the fuck out.
Biggest hack that you've done you can talk about. Okay, I can't really go into who the target was, but I disconnected an entire, how do I say it? I don't want to say it without giving it away. An entire group within a group from crucial comms because I net splitted their messaging. I don't know if that makes sense. But a lot of governments, a lot of countries use IRC to communicate from ground to, or from sea to ground. And they use IRC for real. So, yeah.
What was that? IRC?
I got a funny one. How about this? This is be the only one I share. I like that though. What you posted on the Eventbrite. You're like, way to get in the Darknet Diaries, right? So, one time we were doing a pedophile operation, and I was with a vigilante hacky group, and so I'm scanning the site, from the command line, and the site looked like it was up to me, but here it was a parking domain, right? So I found a SQL injection flaw on it and ended up getting into the database, and there was millions of accounts that was fucking connected to Google and everything. And so I'm like, oh shit, like holy fucking cow, like I just blitzed something that was really big. So yeah, that was one crazy hack that I did, and it was merely accidental because the way it looked to me from my command line was that this fucking site was there, it was up, but I couldn't believe it because the parking domain redirected and they had a PHP page on it, and then of course they didn't sanitize properly.
So I think one of the most exciting hacks I've done is actually not really a hack. It's like downloading shit to a USB and walking out the front door with it.
Those are always fun.
And Exodus has to mention has to mention Op Iran. So you read my mind. So we won't go into what happened with Op Iran, but yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna shut down my video for a second. You guys continue. Ryan, moderate. Questions. This is like the only chance you guys are gonna get for this panel. So I would take advantage of it. This is going on Tech Strong TV, and I can't promise you we'll ever have this opportunity again. So I'll be back in one second.
Any question, Ed? Where's Damo? Damo, you've always got a question, man. You there, Damo?
Damo.
He's ghosted us. How fitting. Well, Justice D, I really appreciate you guys sharing. Wow. Anyone? No, it's gone quiet. Oh, here we go. Where have you seen Johhny5, have you had any run-ins with the law?
Luckily, no. But I've from what I've heard, I can't imagine the file on me, but I guess some get lucky, some don't. And I'm happy to be part of the lucky camp. And I don't take nothing away from those that have gone down. Like I said, it's really hard to talk about because it's something personal to me. I've watched a lot of friends die. I've watched a lot of friends go to jail, and then meanwhile, you end up never being touched, and sometimes you think like, why? but yeah, I've had quite a few run-ins. I would say more online, like Twitter wise than anything, because every time somebody got butt hurt, they would tag the FBI and try to get them to look at me. But I'm sure the FBI was looking like you better not fuck with this guy if you know it's good for you. But I always thought that I don't know, it's
so as far as go ahead, Ryan, go ahead.
So Johnny and Exodus, have you suffered much of the tall poppy kind of syndrome that Mike has? Jealous, other guys jealous, like you're talking about butthurt people on Twitter.
Yeah. So
is
that
the threat
happened to me.
within, within the community? What's the threat from?
I'd like to think that everybody at some level respected me. I mean, I've even had people from the KKK message me on Twitter, to leave their website alone. But You know, and when you talk to these people and stuff like that, you know, that's something that Mike was talking about earlier, you know, with everything that's going on in the country, you know, it's like, to me, it's, I always, like I said, I always thought of what I did as whatever group I was with as the great equalizer. So if anybody ever seen the Equalizer, you know, it's exactly what he does, you know, is, I don't like when things go in one direction or the other. So, you know, when one hand gets out of line, that's where we go spank and get the butt hurt too.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who they are. It can be left, right, up, down, dimensional.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I do want to bring up one point real quick and interject. So Ghost, I think, should be like an integral part of podcast, right?
I agree.
Yeah, totally. So we do have Patreon set up. He needs like some voice and microphones, headphones, some place where he
Let's
can
do it,
like,
man.
yeah, place where he can like set up shop. So if you guys want to donate to the podcast and help him out to get situated and part of the podcast, I'm totally down for it.
Absolutely.
I've
Yeah.
I've taken donations for him and given like RF type of equipment and stuff, but I think he needs like some microphones and shit like that so that we can get him on
But
board.
I believe that people like, especially Exodus, I mean, that's a powerful voice in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a company or somebody that's looking to, you know, hire people and stuff like that, and if you got certain areas of cybersecurity, like what you do, Mike, you know, where you can't buy talent like that. You know, there's people that's come up in our generation, in our community, that are worth their money in gold, worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see them.
Yeah, for real. So Frenchie, can you post Linktree on the chat so people can get all the links for Haunted Hacker, as far as Patreon, as far as Teespring, the website, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. Would be really cool if anybody has that like available. I can't go digging for it right now, but yeah, that's important. So we kind of look after each other and ourselves within this group, because I want it to be something special and I want to take care of our own people. That's one thing that didn't happen anonymous, like in any other group I was with, is that if one person was lacking, it was like they were kind of left behind. That's not what I'm down for.
The drama is what pushed me away. I would suggest to people listening, you know, if you're in that community, don't listen to people, man.
Yeah. And also, like on that same line, we have had like issues with other groups, which is destined to happen. We're not going to escape that shit. But we have to look out for each other, do like due diligence and like check each other out and figure out like, you know, hey, this is like sketchy or whatever. But look out for each other, because that's, you know, there's going to be attempts, whether it be government, whether it be other groups, whether it be just people who are just assholes, period, are going to try to infiltrate this group. Because anytime you succeed, there's going to be somebody who tries to knock that shit down. So, yeah, look out for each other. Other than that, I don't have anything else on this side. YouTube, if you guys want to participate, if you're just a listener, you're not part of like the crew or whatever, if you want to give back to the community and like do some videos on different hacks or techniques, I'm down for it. Send me the video. I'll post it on YouTube. I'll clean it up, add music to it, whatever, and we'll host it. Because to me, it's not just a group thing. We need to pass on all knowledge, whatever it be, to other people coming into the industry and people who really are thirsty for that knowledge. And for us to sit on it and not pass that on is doing ourselves a disservice. So put together videos, email me or hit us in Discord, and I will help you get that shit to the YouTube channel so we can help other people. Otherwise,
Post the Discord link.
go ahead. You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just grabbing it down, man.
Dude, I've got so many windows open. It's hard for me to like maintain
Yeah,
shit
dude.
here. Yeah.
It's a mess. Yeah. Boom.
And hopefully with more of this corporate sponsorship, we can get like, you know, I can have like 3 or 4 monitors where I can like do different things at the same time, but it's difficult. So, and we're actually running tonight. The podcast is actually running tonight on my cell phone because we did get new Wi-Fi, but AT&T LTE internet service is horrible.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, definitely never a sponsor. They're lucky. They're lucky I'm not attacking them right now. Like, it's horrible. It's really bad. But yeah, so send your ideas, questions, videos, whatever you want, to the Discord. And also, we do have like all the merchandise and shit like that, like really cool new logos for both Australia and the US and UK. Ariel asks, where are you from, Haunted? I am from the ether. I don't have a home. I literally am from the internet. I do live in a remote place on a mountain and away from civilization for a reason. And you can ask the State Department why. I'm still trying to figure out why. But yeah, that's where I'm from. Originally, you know, I'll be honest, I'm from DC. I was born at Fort Meade. My dad was NSA. So that's where I started. I was kind of born into this whole dynamic structure. Any other questions? I'm going to end this here in about 5 minutes. So this is your last chance for questions. Do you have a home in the UK? Interesting question. I do. I do have a home in the UK. So I won't go too much into that, but yeah, I have family there. Anything else? All right. Going once, going twice. Next step for HH. So, Haunted Hacker, next steps. Dude, like, that's a dynamic question that I think that all of us need to answer. Like, where is this going? I wasn't really sure, right? So, like, Ryan, can you handle that?
What's that? What was the question? Sorry.
The next steps for HH.
I guess world domination, man. No, we started the Australian chapter, I guess you call it. We're just going to concentrate on content down here, keep the podcast centralized, and start doing some interesting videos on kind of all the aspects of cybersecurity, I guess, of hacking, pen testing, a bit of social engineering, you know, some interesting real world stuff. Get out from behind the keyboard and get out and do some interesting shit.
Lock picking,
a little bit of RFID cloning, you know, all the fun stuff,
all the good shit. So with that said, people in other countries, you know, we have US on lockdown, we have UK on lockdown, or Australia on lockdown. We are lacking Asia, Europe. I may have some Russia contacts we can spread that shit to. But if you're in another country other than the US and Australia, bang it up. If you guys want to lead the HH movement in that country, let me know. Let Ryan know, whoever in Discord, and we'll make sure you get what you need. I know that Damien has the UK pretty much on lockdown. He's waiting on like more feedback from, I guess, merchandise, whatever. But if you want to, like, let's say you want to like boom some shit. So Ireland, great idea. Ireland, if you want to boom some shit for HH in Ireland, let us know. Ryan has like spread the shit to Australia like effectively. So if you want to model that after, contact Ryan and we can go from there. But I would like to see it spread as far as you guys want to take it. I'm okay with whatever. It makes me a little nervous, but you know, hey, it's our movement. It's part of who you are. do what you want to do.
That's it, man.
Yeah. Don't forget your old gateway. Ireland. Yeah, Belfast is like an old friend of mine.
I just say hack the planet, man.
Dude, that's where we're going. So as many people,
that's what's up, you know. That's
as
what's
many people who want to get involved, I'm willing to work with them. I have no political ties. I have no country boundaries. Just whatever.
I'm a human being, man.
Yeah, bro. I'm a citizen of planet Earth. Period.
Right, for now.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, last call for questions. Anybody has any questions? I'm going to shut this down and wrap this up and start converting the video for Techstrong TV. Anything else?
Man, I just want to thank Johhny5, Exodus, and yourself, Mike, for a great show, man, as always, you know. And everyone for turning up, man. It's like a cracking turnout. So impressed. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Yeah, believe me, it was everybody was pretty supportive, and I just appreciate it, you know, because I feel like you know, I put in my time and put in my work, and you know, it's just I always envisioned something like that, you know, when I first hooked up with Mike. I just thought that this was a great idea, you know, because you know it. Like other podcasts too, you know, but this one in particular, you know, where we can bring industry leaders together, talk some hacking, talk some other industry stuff. It works for everybody, man. So,
yeah, it's rare that you get this combination of people in one place.
Right. Oh yeah, no doubt.
So, with that being said, I'm going to sign off and get this prepared for TV. Thanks everybody for logging in. Cool.
See you, man.
See you next week.
Yeah,
See you guys.
indeed.
Later, guys.
Later, guys.